Hello folks and welcome to Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined as ever by the head of sport in the Nina Guardian, Shane Brophy. We also have Gary Toohey of Clubber TV and Paul Carroll of Tip FM. So we have a fairly stacked show today. But Shane, there was a huge amount going on the weekend. 22 of the 24 teams at senior level, if we just talk about that for a minute, had something to play for. It ended up, there was an awful lot of movement here and there. But pretty good weekend of Tipperary hurling.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't think we probably got the drama we were kind of hoping for. With maybe Saturday night in Borrisley and Templederry, when I think every couple of minutes Mike Harkey were through and Ross Gray were through, and then when the final whistle sounded at both venues, it was Ross Gray who had their noses in front. So that was dramatic, all right. And I suppose the thing for me was Friday night, and we were watching what was going on in Clare and the score difference thing. And I think a lot of clubs were caught out by that. I think a lot of clubs became aware of potential problems. And we saw it on Saturday in the one of the intermediate groups, where under the old system, Ballingarry would have qualified on score difference, but under the new score difference tiebreaker, Golden Kilfeacle ended up qualifying in second place out of the group. So from that, they were probably the two talking points I had from the weekend.
Yeah, Gary, what was it like for you?
So we were in Borrisley. I think the game of the weekend was Templederry Holy Cross. I know Shane said there wasn't supposed too many surprises that we thought of. I suppose 20 to 22 games that were played had something riding on them. But Jesus, the Templederry Holy Cross game was unbelievable. I was there at half-time. I think Templederry were actually through in second place at half-time, and if they got 2 more points, they would have knocked Holy Cross off. And it was just mad after the game. We were all waiting around there to do interviews, and the two teams in huddles right beside each other. And word got to Templederry that they were safe from relegation, and the roaring in the ball of them was brilliant. But then 10 seconds later, Jesus, if we had 2 more points, we were through. So they were kind of flattened in after that. But I thought it was a great weekend. There was some crack now Saturday and Sunday trying to refresh Twitter and Clubber. But no, listen, come here. I think it was definitely the best club championship I've ever come across in Tip in my 33 years on this planet anyway.
Yeah, Paul, what did you make of it? You were commentating on a few games as well.
Yeah, I kind of almost had a fear of missing out on Sunday. I was at the games in Central Stadium, and all the drama seemed to be happening elsewhere with Nina and Mullinahone and the games down in Borrisley that Gary was talking about there. But I was kind of guaranteed to have some bit of drama, and come, I don't know, was it 4 o'clock or anywhere, or 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, trying to calculate that Group 3 of the Senior Championship with Holy Cross and Templederry. Trying to do that live on air probably wasn't the best radio of all time, but we got there in the end, and it sets up for a really good knockout stages, and looking forward to the general chat about it anyway.
Okay, well, we'll go through game by game now. So Group 1 of the championship, we saw Mullinahone beat Nina Éire Óg 221 to 116. Shane, there was 3 red cards for Nina, so obviously when they've already had Mikey Heffernan injured and Jake Morris injured coming into this game, that was never going to be ideal. Not ideal to see 3 lads go it off here for Nina. What does that say about, they started the season well, they won the North, they look to be building nicely. Something like that can interrupt your flow. They had the preliminary quarter-final, they've got Thurles. Obviously, that's the last straw they wanted. But, what do you make of that, a result like that for Nina?
Sure, look, you can accept losing, but God almighty, brainless sort of stuff. Nina would have known coming into the game, even if we lost, we have another preliminary quarter final, so at minimum lads have got to keep their discipline. But 3 red cards, I think it's criminal. It's just brainless sort of stuff. And I suppose the one where Owen Kelly was met coming up at the field, silly stuff. Okay, maybe you want to put him off, fine, but don't come into contact with him. It's silly stuff. And now you have potentially 3 guys suspended. Okay, you're looking at the 3 guys: Cian O'Farrell, Ben West and Tommy Heffernan. Realistically, one in Tommy is a starter, but Ben West has been very, very good coming off the bench. So I know Cian O'Farrell had played most of the year with the juniors, but it puts them under savage pressure now. I don't know. I assume they'll probably appeal some of them. I haven't watched the match back yet to see what the nature of the 3 reds were like, but they're under serious pressure now. But I suppose we'll talk about the draw later, but fair dues to Mullinahone. I think most people would have picked them to finish bottom of this group, but they're in a they're in a preliminary quarter final now. They have momentum. Like, they won this game without Conor Whelan. I think he fell victim to an appendix during the week, so he might need to be back for the Clonalty game in a couple of weeks. So, like, he was arguably their best player out of their half back line. So, like, they weren't at full strength either. But look, they've been going very well. Like, Owen O'Dwyer, Mikey O'Shea, the forwards playing some great stuff. Like, the current still at the heart of things. So, like, they're going to be very, very tricky, like, good proponents going forward, because they have a smashing blend of youth and experience, like, and lads who won county championships come back to Kelly and Curran, and young lads with enthusiasm. So, look, as much as maybe some of the focus is on Nina, you have to give a lot of credit to Mullinahone as well.
Yeah, and like, just in terms of like the lay of the land now moving forward, I just give that and then throw it over to you, Gary, in terms of how Mullinahone did. Like, so we know that Drummer, a top seed, going through group winner, Toomevara as well, Lockmore, Castellini, Killadang, and runners up are Mullinahone, Roscrea, Holy Cross, Ballycahill, Thurles, Sarsfields. And then we're going to see Nina against Thurles and Clonalty against, top of the head, what is it again? Clonalty against Mullinahone. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So, like, what does that do for Mullinahone, Gary? I mean, I watched the game and I look at, Jack Shelley and Mikey O'Shea and, lovely pace up the field. I was looking forward to seeing Conor Whelan again, but like Shane said, he's out injured. Like, they look a good team as well with Sean Curran at centre back.
Yeah, look, I suppose we keep going back to the start of the year. Mullinahone are most people's favourites probably to go down or be in the bottom four. Without Conor Whelan at the weekend, I thought this was, I wouldn't say a handy win for Nina, but they get over him, even with missing a couple of lads they were missing. Conor Whelan probably has been in the top 5 players of the championship so far. He's been incredible. But I think that was a real statement from Mullinahone at the weekend. Not only just the hurling, but he got into the heads of Nina lads, obviously with their 3 red cards as well. And that's my only fear of Nina now. Obviously, I've given Nina a hell of a lot of love. They're the last 5 or 6 weeks, and they're probably my favourites. They're going up until last weekend. But again, it comes back to that, so that mentality of, like, even if they'd lost the game, as Shane said, lads, we've a preliminary quarter final in a couple of weeks' time. Keep the heads, don't do anything stupid. But is that just small bit of complacency, I don't know, kicking back in? I was very, very disappointed in Nina, but Mullinahone, I think, they're a small little dark horse, I think. Look, I wouldn't say it's to win the whole thing out, but I fancy them big time to get over Clonalty. I don't think it won't be an easy or comfortable win, but I can't see Clonalty beating Mullinahone on the form that Mullinahone are at the moment. They just have a savage blend. And just the way they played the game at the weekend, they played a really nice brand of hurling. And sure, look, the great man, the legend, the god that's in goals as well. Like, in just his interview with Steve.
Son of
God. The interview with Stephen Gleeson afterwards, and nearly melted your heart the way he was so passionate about the club. I don't know. There's something really special about Mullinahone this year.
Yeah, and like, the other thing with Owen Kelly as well is, if you're a referee, Paul, you're nearly afraid to disagree with him. Like, he was kind of half referee in the game from the goals at the same time. He was very influential, or seemed to be anyway. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing or a criticism, because you use everything you have. But like, as a referee, it's very hard to say no to Owen Kelly when he's telling you this, that, or the other happened.
It was the first thing I noticed from watching the matches. Like, he's in control of everything that's on the field, the sidelines, the umpires, everything. The minute, the 2 red cards for Tommy Heffernan and Ben West were kind of off the ball, so you couldn't see, but he was involved heavily in both of them. With the Tommy Heffernan one, he was up to the umpire straight away, swinging the hurley. He must have swung his hurley 50 times. He had everyone convinced, this has to be a red card, even though no one probably saw what had happened. But he's just a master of the craft, really. And then that whole drama of coming up to take the penalty, getting hit, but still coming up and burying it into the back of the net. So he is special. And the interview after was brilliant, just the way he was talking about the whole thing. But yeah, he's very much in control of everything. But for Nina, it was very much self-sabotage, really, with the 3 red cards, as Shane was saying. But I suppose the only thing for Nina is they've got Thurles Sarsfields now, and oftentimes when you get the kind of worst draw you could get, it kind of focuses minds, and they kind of know that they have to come together and bring it their all. And like, even without the 3 lads they're missing, it's still a brilliant Nina team. Like, and I don't know if Jake will be back. If he will, that's another big shove on. And as Shane was saying, Mikey Heffernan should be back as well. So even with the 1 or 2 lads they're going to be missing, it's still a brilliant Nina team, and I'm sure Johnny Kelly and Michael Cleary and the lads will have them raring to go in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah,
so just one positive from Nina, like another I suppose encouraging performance to Sam O'Farrell in the middle of the field, 4 points to play, like really really seems to be gelling in there nicely. Like, so, like, I agree with Paul. Like, I know people will look at the draw and think Nina are up against it, but I said Nina's recent record against Sars is very good. We go back 3 years ago in the quarter final and they destroyed Sars in the stadium. Like, was it 3-12 to 1-7 or something they had made. And like, this is, I agree with Paul. Like, in terms of, it was the toughest draw they could get, but in some ways it's probably the draw Nina needed.
And do you know what? Just looking at the game between JK Brackens and Drum, the other one in that group, 324 to Brackens, Drum 216. Paddy Cadell, again, man of the match. He was man of the match for the footballers last week. In some ways, Shane, Brackens have been unfortunate in that if the county championship started maybe a month later, maybe they'd have had Cadell there, maybe they'd have had just, their team might have been that bit more cohesive and they might have had a chance of coming out of this group. But just the start kind of killed them and the form has come too late. But maybe Drum had nothing to play for either, and that was part of this.
Yeah, I just, so say Brackens for the moment. Yeah, I think of the 4 teams that are in relegation at the moment, I think they're the team that are coming into it a bit of momentum now after the Drum win, and Paddy Cadell is back, and Connor Cadell and a couple of eyes were late back from America as well. So like they probably started the championship a bit off color, but they found their way back now. And like that was a fair beatdown. And I would be, if I was Drum, I'd be very worried. Like, okay, it was a dead rubber game, but like for Drum to lose by 11 and like they only got 2 late goals to even put a bit of gloss on it, like there's a way to play a dead rubber, and that was not the way for Drum to play it. And Drum needed to show an awful lot more. They needed to show a bit of hunger and desire in that game that Brackens needed to. And like I'd be worried about Drum's mentality to going forward and winning tight games, try and win a county championship. It's like let's say, I don't know what the boys think, but like there's a way of playing dead rubbers, and they seem to have got it all wrong.
Gary, what would you make of how Drum are going, and also any word on JK Brackens?
Yeah, no, just on Brackens, I think it could be a season to find a moment for them. Obviously, they're going right well in the senior football, so like that win over Drum might kick them on the football as well, but it'll definitely kick them on, obviously, in the relegation. I definitely agree with Shane there. Like, I think Drum had a chance the weekend to make a statement for the Dan Breen. Like, I know Paddy was back. He's basically come back to full fitness. Connor and a few other lads back as well. But the weekend was a real chance for Drum to say, right, lads, we're here now. We're going to make a statement. Like, only 2 teams won all 3 matches. They could be in the 3rd team, but the 2 goals came very late on, probably in injury time. It would have been 17, 18 points. I would be very concerned as well. You can say what you want, but Brackens 100% and Drum 100%. There's not 11 points between the 2 teams, so I don't know. I don't be putting my head on a wall here, but I'd be completely writing Drum off now for Dan Breen after that. I know it's only 1 game, but Jesus, that was a chance to really kick on their championship. It was.
Yeah, Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, it was the kind of most surprising results of the weekend, just because it was a dead rubber and you would have maybe expected teams to rest lads, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And for Brackens, as Shane mentioned there, huge momentum for them now going into the knockout stage or into the relegation. But yeah, for Drum, very strange result. But it's hard to just turn it on. Like, you can't, if you just take your foot off the gas in a championship like this, it's hard to just recover it back. So it'll be really interesting to see how they get on. They would have been a lot of people's kind of maybe not favourites or anything, but top kind of 4 teams in this championship going in. And they've had a strange championship. Poor performance in the mid against Lockmore. Then they come in, won their first 2 games, and now it's a poor performance against JK Bracken. So often hard to know what you're going to get from Drum and Inch, but they're into a quarter final now, so they can have us all forgetting about this dead rubber against JK Brackens in a couple of weeks' time if they're on their way into a semi-final.
Maybe if they go on and win a county championship, they'll probably tell us that the week of the Brackens game they did a hard week's training because they took a decision that was what they had to do. And maybe we'll probably hear that in a few weeks' time if they have Dan Breen back in the rag.
I don't think with commercials coming up in football at the weekend, I don't think they did a hard week last weekend, but.
And so then next group 2, like Killerwan 121, Moycarkey 123. So Killerwan, the county champions, they're down in the relegation battle. Toomevara in the same group beat Roscrea 120 to 118. And we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier on. Shane referenced it. The way the scoring difference was going here, Roscrea needed a 6-point swing to get through in this group. And it just didn't quite happen for them. But it was very exciting towards the end of the game. Like it was great stuff altogether. Paul, what did you make of this?
Yeah, as you said, brilliant excitement. Yeah, well, it was 120 to 118. Tumi Vara go marching on, 3 wins from 3, and they've been like hotly contested wins in fairness for Toom, but they're the kind of games you want to get through. Roscrea, like they'll be delighted. Just coming up from Premier Intermediate to finish second in the group is massive. And this is a really interesting group. Like the other game in the group, Moycarkey Burris and Killer One. Like I'd say Moycarkey are probably sickened because they had all the chances in the world to get out of this group. On day one, they drew with Roscrea, conceded a kind of late free 21 yards out for Roscrea to level the game. Then against Tumi Vara, they lost by a point, but they hit an awful lot of wides in the first half, especially, and then they had a 21-yard free saved in the second half. So, and then after beating Killer One McDonough's, they just needed to win by 2 more points, and they would have finished second themselves. So I'm sure very frustrating kind of year to hurling for Moycarkey Burris. And then for Killer One McDonough's, like I don't think anyone expected us to be here come 3 weeks into the championship, or 3 games into the championship, where the county champions are heading to relegation and are not looking all that good. Like some of the players that would have been key for them last year just haven't performed this year. They've had injuries. It just hasn't. A lot went their way last year, and nothing has gone their way this year. So they're going to be a bit fearful, I'd imagine, going into these relegation semi-finals. They have all the hurlers. That's not the issue. It's just they're not playing to their best at all. So they just need to pull some sort of performance out of the bag and make sure they're not going into a relegation final.
And Gary, is part of that similar to JK Bracken's? If the season had to start a little bit later for Killer One and maybe they have a bit more of their panel together, that they might not be in this situation?
No, yeah, you can say that. Sure, look, life doesn't work like that. Obviously, Bill missing the last day was just absolutely massive, and like any team in the country missing someone like Bill O'Mara, like Killer One, when your luck isn't in, your luck is just not in. They've had no luck at all this year with injuries. They've missing Keane or Bill or Craig at some stage. Craig was fine at the weekend. He played okay, but he still wasn't back to his 100%. And then Moycarkey on the other side of things, they're probably the most unluckiest team in the country for not getting through. They should have probably bet to him that evening in the rag. They were probably the better team. And then again, another couple of points and they would have swung them to finish second. So they're probably the best third place team. I know it's no consolation to them, but I was just mightily impressed with Roscrea again. After like the Roscrea Moycarkey game, the first round of the championship. Now I know it's the first round, but that was a brutal game in terms of standard by both teams. But both teams just kicked on to the next level in their next 2 games. Roscrea, like they'll find themselves fierce and lucky not to have beaten Toom. Then the other side of things, I know I said a few weeks ago that Toom won't win at Enbreen, and I still reckon it, but they're definitely up there in top 4 now. Again, they're just tipping along really nicely. They're edging out close wins. Like that's a fierce young team. Like just remember, like Jason Ryan isn't there as well, lads. So imagine putting Jason Ryan in there as well. They're just tipping along nicely, and I could be eating words come October 14th or 15th. But no, might impress with both Toom and Roscrea. And look, especially Roscrea, first year up, all you want to do is survive relegation. But geez, they've really kicked on.
And like Moycarkey, Shane, what are your thoughts on them? I mean, they pushed really hard this year. The boys have gone through the results already. They're going to be sickened.
Yeah, look, I suppose when you lose out by 2 points and score difference, you'll always reflect on maybe where could we have picked up a couple of extra scores. I'm sure the Tumi Vara game in particular, like they hit an awful lot of wides, but then you go back to last weekend while they probably deservedly won, like Rhys Shelley had a massive game. Like he made some brilliant saves as well. Like so, look, he in some ways, like he was very busy in the championship, which is probably maybe something that Eddie Brennan will look at maybe for next year in terms of the areas we need to improve on. But then you look at the team that put out last weekend. Max Hackett didn't play again. Joe Egan was injured. So like I think they're maybe a lot like Holy Cross are now. I think next year it'll be massive for Holy Cross. So some of those younger guys will be a year older. I think they'll hopefully maybe use that bit of disappointment maybe to kick on. Killer One, you're looking at, I suppose, the fact that it's 3 weeks to the relegation semi-final. I think it'll be minimum, I suppose, at least. We don't know how, it depends on how far Clonoti go in the championship, but it gives them time to maybe get some of the injuries settled, Bill sat out last weekend, a concussion. So you'd still think when push comes to shove, like they should be fine, but like you can't say it. Like who's to say they won't go from champions to being relegated in the 1 year? You could see it, but like there's 4 very strong teams in relegation, and going to the other game, like I really enjoyed Toom and Roscrea on Saturday night. We're big crowd under the stand in Borrisoleigh. I thought Toom were full value for the win. Now I thought they were just found the scores easier to come by. Mark McCarthy, super game at wing forward, 5 points, 4 from play. Jack Delaney, another 1-3. Like he's probably up there for player of the championship so far. Darren McCarthy held pretty quiet. Like I have Luke CC in my team of the week. Like he did a super job on Darren McCarthy, but Darren was still a threat all through, just such a live wire.
Was it Sean Flaherty came on and scored 3 points near the end?
Yeah, like Sean, like to have a bench like Adam Hall as well. And then as Gary said, like they just have a lovely blend. And you look if Toom are ahead in the match, and in the last 10 minutes you can bring on Joey Malochney, and you bring him on in the half back line, just settles the whole thing down, a bit of assurance. So they're nicely set. There's no doubt about it. And just I want to mention to Josh McCarthy, I thought he was outstanding at centre back. I think he's another potential inclusion into Liam Cahill's squad. I just think he's a very unheard player, very solid, well-built chap as well, has a bit of speed about him, reads the game well. So he's had another great championship. And like Ross Gray, as Paul said, great for them to get through. Like I think they probably would have been looked at the 4 team in the group coming in, having come up, but look, they've gotten through. They're still... I think their system of hurling, it's effective in some ways, but it's also an Achilles heel because like their goal came from working the ball up the field through the lines, and Alan Tynan buried it. But then the goal they conceded in the second half was like a ball across their own 65, a poor touch by Evan Fitzpatrick, and Jake Ryan nipped in, robbed it, ran into space, popped the ball to Jack Delaney back in the net. So like there's risk and reward with how they play. And ironically, when they went 4 or 5 points down and word was coming through that they were going out and score difference, they went to plan B and long ball into the square, and they were a threat. Like they won a penalty, brilliant save from Rory Brislan, from Darrell Ryan, like diverted it over the bar. So I said great credit to Ross Gray. Like they finished strongly. Like they were 4 points down, nicked over 2 points in injury time, and they were the 2 points that got them qualified.
Yeah, like they had a good spine to that team there as well. We've been talking in recent weeks, both Gary and Paul, about what players might be impressed in Liam Cahill, and Darren McCarthy was one of the players that we talked about. And maybe it'd be another year on again before he gets big enough, but like he certainly seems to have the hurling. Gary, are there any players that you've seen that you think that aren't currently in with Tip that might get the nod based on what we've seen?
Would you believe, I'm not just saying it now because Shane said it, but Josh has been on my radar there for the last 3 weeks. Again, he's going about his business very quietly without, I suppose, he doesn't give a 10 out of 10 every day, but geez, he was very good. And the six role nowadays in hurling, that's gone. The centre back is gone. Like a 6 now is your quarterback. And it's basically that kind of spare man role. And it's not easy to play that game, lads, but Josh is doing it unbelievable. And he's very physical as well. He kind of reminds me, his style of hurling is a bit like Gooch in Porto, kind of similar style, running and kind of attacking the ball. From Ross Gray, I think Alan's been in there already. You're putting me on the spot there. I'd say I have a list of about 20 lads there that you could include maybe in a winter training panel that definitely deserve 3 or 4 months of a hardcore session with Liam inside. But I just think, I don't know, my mind is so muzzled now at the moment because you're watching so many games out between going to games and clubber. You think about 20 lads off the top of your head, whereas before you're only going to 2 or 3 games and reading a report in the Guardian there the week. Oh yeah, he's going the finest. But I'd say Liam Cahill is just it's a good complaint he has at the moment. There's definitely about 15 or 20 lads that are probably putting their hand up for a winter training panel.
Like you see what a one winter training with Tips to do with. Like we'll be moving on to the next one with Sean Ryan. Mother of God, like his performance.
Oh, Shane. And sorry, no, like I've seen him in person 3 times this year, lads, and he is by far, and I'm going to put it here now, the best club hurler in the county. He's just absolutely ridiculous. Everything he does, he glides, he's fast, he's the fastest player in the county. His first touch, no one else in the county has a first touch like him. He's the most unselfish club hurler I've seen this year as well. He scored 5 in play at the weekend. He got man of the match, but he set up 4 points directly, and he won 3 frees as well. He is by far the best club hurler in the county. I can't wait for another winter with him. Like, if I don't see him in the first 15 come first round championship next year, he's definitely going to be injured, because that's the only way that'll stop him starting for Tip next year. He's unbelievable.
The only issue with Sean is he's not very big in terms of height, but he reminds me of Peter Casey in Limerick. Like, if Peter Casey can be that good for Limerick, there's a role definitely for Sean Ryan with Tip.
Shane, he can jump. He can jump to the clouds to catch the ball. He caught 2 savage balls over Brian Lamara at the weekend. He has everything.
And Paul, anyone standing out to you as well? And I know we're putting you on the spot a small bit.
Yeah, no, 2 names come to mind. Dara Stakelum has been having a great championship so far for Thurles. I think he got 1-3 against Clounty, and he got 6 points against Bursley at the weekend, but he could have easily had 2 goals. He lettered one off the crossbar, and then he kind of hand passed the ball to Tommy Doyle when he maybe could have shot himself for goal. So he could have easily had 2 or 3 goals on the day, but he's been very good. Real kind of stylish player. I think when you left hand on top, you always just even look a better player. Maybe it's just more of a stylish style. And the other person then that stands out for me so far, Ed Connolly from Lockmore Castellani. I think he's got 4 goals in the 4 championship games he's played. He scored 4 or 5 points from play against Upper Church the other day, but real kind of athletic fella, great runner with the ball, and has an eye for goals clearly as well. So I'm sure those 2 lads will be in with Liam Calvert. There's been loads of really good performances, maybe not even to that level, but throughout the championship, like even just mentioning Toomey Var there, like Rory Ruslan has made 2 brilliant saves last day, one from the penalty, but one from about 5 yards out, where I'm not too sure how much he knew about it, but he had the bravery to stand up to it anyway. And he's been having a good championship. And there's been loads of good performances so far in the championship, but if you can put in another few good performances in the knockout stages, I think that's where people really put their hands up.
And you know what, Shane, at this point now, we'll throw up your latest power rankings. We still have plenty of games to talk about, but we'll throw it up, we'll let you explain it, and then we'll release the 2 hounds here after it.
Yeah, sure. I started at the bottom, Killer One, at dropped down 1 to 16. I like Brackens, but I'm just taking into account it was a dead rubber game, so I don't want to mark it too strong. So they're moving up to 15. Like Templederry won. I in some ways I'd love to move them up further, but look, they were beaten by Upper Church, so I can't move them ahead of Upper Church. My Carkey got a win, move up a spot to 12. Holy Cross still drop 1 to 11, but Holy Cross beat. I'd still have, if Holy Cross and my Carkey were playing each other today, I'd have Holy Cross winning. Roscrea move 1 up spot to 10. Even though they were beaten, I thought the level of performance was quite good. I suppose I moved them up essentially because Holy Cross lost. Probably Roscrea's loss to Toom wasn't as poor as Holy Cross's loss to Templederry. Clounty unchanged at 9. Bursley dropped 4 to 8. I thought they were very, very poor against Thurles Sarsfields on Sunday. It really didn't land a blow at all. Maybe I could probably drop them to 9, even 10. Nina dropped 4 places to 7. Just the manner, the feel like that they were well behind at half time. They got it back to 2 or 3 points before the Red Mist descended. Mullinholm up 3 to 6. Drum dropped 3 to 5. Okay, it was a dead rubber, but just the manner of it, like you have to penalise them for losing by 11. Sarsfields up 3 to 4. Killadangan up 3 to 3. They beat Thurles, so that's why I have them ahead of Thurles. Tumivara up 3 to 2, and Lockmore 100% record stay unchanged at number 1.
Right, we'll throw it to you, Gary, first.
Straight away. No, look, I agree with your top 4, just not in that order. I'd have Lockmore, Dangan, and Sarsfields. I'd have Toom in 4th. I think Clounty, you're being very kind to Clounty, maybe just because they won the West. Yeah. I've been very disappointed in them this year. Very disappointed. I know Jack Ryan was missing the day against Sars, and look, I know Connor came back the last day, but I definitely wouldn't have him up around 9th. Templederry, I'd have him up a bit higher. Again, I know we're going to touch on it there with Bursley and Sarsfields, but Templederry will know themselves. They were very disappointed inside the stadium. And again, stadium games are completely different than any other ground in the county. I'd have them a lot higher. I'm not going to argue with you too much this week on it. I'd have Mullinholm ahead of Drum as well, but I'd yeah, I'd probably just.
I have Drum is still ahead because they beat Mullinahone in the game. So sort of I'm trying to keep. If there's a tiebreaker situation, it's sort of why, or if there's I go with the results between the two teams to separate them. Like so.
Yeah. No, it's some fall from grace there. Sorry, it's some fall from grace having Killangan at 16. Like it's just, Killarone at 16. But I would say Killarone are hoping County just keep winning and get to a county final. The longer Killarone can wait for a game, the better, because they basically need to have another pre-season to get everyone back. And I think they'll be fine in relegation if they have 3 or 4 weeks of a break.
Yeah, Paul, I'll bring it up on screen again. Is there anything that you'd change?
Not too much now, in fairness. No, Shane, tis looking fairly bang on. The top 4, I'd probably agree with. Maybe Thurles and Killadangan possibly above Toomevara, but when you've won 3 games from 3, it's hard to deny Toom that. Elsewhere, looking down, just on Killarone McDonough's there, what Gary said was right. Like it's not the usual case in a relegation playoff where you want time, because usually in a relegation playoff, there's no crack really at training. Like, it's kind of doom and gloom. And if you could play the games this evening, you would. Like, but for Killarone McDonough's, they want a bit of time to just get bodies right, get lads back fit, because again, anything can happen in these relegation matches. And if you're missing 1 or 2 lads, that could be the difference. And all of a sudden, you're down a grade, and that can have huge kind of permutations for your club going forward. So Killarone, definitely need the time, but in terms of the power rankings, they're looking fairly spot on.
Yeah, and I suppose, Shane, if we're to move on then back to Group 3, Holy Cross, where are they at now? I mean, it's only a couple of games ago that they probably could have drawn with Lockmore, and obviously it was that scoreboard issue towards the end. They won't be too happy with this performance, losing by 4 points to Templederry.
No, and they never really looked like getting to grips with the game on Sunday. Like they were really always chasing it and really lack of control in the match. Like, I suppose that's full credit to Templederry. Like, I suppose they really brought their level of aggression and hunger to it. Maybe there's something half in the back of Holy Cross's mind thinking we'll get through anyway. Like that we were in second place and we needed a couple of big results, maybe margins to go against us. And Jesus, like was it a couple of times in injury time, there was 5 points between them, and there was only all it needed was Templederry maybe to win the next puck out and go back up the field and we get another score and go 6 up, and suddenly Templederry were through and Holy Cross were out. So they cut it fine. But look, I think the way Holy Cross have got to look at it, it's a big step forward from this year. Now they've been, where Mike Harkey have been at the moment, like maybe on the outside looking in for a few years with a young squad. Now they're in a county quarter final. They're going to be playing in Semple Stadium on quarter final weekend, which is always one of the great weekends, a double header of quarters on Saturday and Sunday. So they're going to be there, and that's going to be huge for them. Like they'll be underdogs against whoever they play. So like there'll be a bit of freedom in that. But look, this is another step on for them. And look, with the minor and under 19 teams that have coming over the next few years, like it's for before those guys even arrive, like for Holy Cross to be taking a next step to a quarter final, as how would you say, disappointing as last Sunday's resulting performance was, like the overall picture, their challenge was to get to a quarter final, and they've done it.
Yeah, and like Templederry, the likes of Adrian Ryan, he scored 3 points. Grode Ryan, he scored 3. Aina Murray hit 1-1. There was a penalty in that as well. The other side of it then, Gary, for Holy Cross, maybe outside of Cathal Barrett scoring 3 from centre forward and Darragh Woods getting 113, I think 1-6 of that or 1-5 of that was from play. Probably just not enough lads stepping up and chipping in.
No, they were very flat, and I spoke with Darragh after the game, and look, they were through. Like, you should be delighted that you're through, but he wasn't. They were probably deflated. Like, they just didn't perform. Like, I saw them against Upper Church. They blew Upper Church away. They were very good. Obviously, I probably thought they should have bet Lockmore. But then coming up, I suppose, the last game, they probably self-consciously thought they were through all right. But Brian O'Mara was very good now, yet again, centre back. But Darragh Woods was unbelievable. No, there just wasn't enough from outside of those 3 lads. It was a very disappointing performance from Holy Cross. But like, it's easy to say that then as well. But the intensity that Templederry brought, lads, it was unbelievable. Like, literally, they were playing like they were 10 points down the whole game. They just brought this aggression. Like, Templederry always have this aggression, but they played some proper slick hurling as well. And I tell you, Aina Murray, when he took his penalty, he took a run up to it, and then he roll lifted as he took a run up to it. And I was like, what are you doing? But it was an unbelievable finish. Sent the goalie the wrong way. And Ian hadn't scored up until that. That was like the 61st minute. And then he popped over a pint a couple of seconds later. But look, Holy Cross, they're through, but they were properly deflated. You could see the two huddles after the game. Temblary delighted with the performance and the win. Holy Cross, they're true, but they were properly disappointed. So I'd say they're going back to the drawing board now after that.
What do you think, Paul?
For Holy Cross, like I'd say, if you'd offered them second place at the start of the group stages, they would have taken it, no matter what way they got it. So I'm sure, as Gary said, they're disappointed after the game, but if they were training last night, I'm sure they could look back at the group stages and say, look, we had a good performance on the first week. We all know what happened against Lockmore with the scoreboard, whatever. They can write that off. And then the game against Templederry, they could just say, look, we weren't at our best. We only lost by a couple of points. And they have the luxury of just saying, let's forget about that now. We've a county quarter-final to look forward to. So they have 3 weeks now to prepare. And in fairness, the one thing for Holy Cross is with that game against Lockmore and the scoreboard issue, there was a lot of talk about how did they not know? Like, how did they not know what was going on? Why didn't the management have to let the players know, or all this kind of talk? But in fairness, the players definitely knew the crack on Saturday evening or Sunday evening. Star Woods got a point to bring it back from 5 points to 4 points down, I'd say, with a few minutes to go, and deep in injury time, and he gave a fist bump, like, so they knew what the crack was with the group. So as I said, they'll just be they have a quarter final to prepare for now. So I think this goes for most teams. Once you're into the quarter final, everything is in the past now. The group stages are gone, and it's almost like a new competition starts. And
Paul, do you think the likes of Clonoulty, they could maybe do without a preliminary quarterfinal? Obviously, that they'd be out if they didn't have it. But like the likes of Conor Hammersley came in, and I thought he was quite impressive at times. He'd probably love to get a bit more training under his belt. Jack Ryan had only been injured recently. Get him a bit right. Like, did Mullinahone want a quarterfinal, or preliminary, I should say? Thurles, I'd say, actually are probably happy enough to have one, because all of a sudden they seem to be humming against Borrisley, and another game might be no harm given the strength of their panel.
Yeah, and for Clonoulty, they're in such a strange position. Like, I can't recall too many teams being in this position before, where they have a preliminary quarterfinal and they have a relegation semi-final as well. So in terms of what do you prioritise, like, the only way they can avoid the relegation semi-finals is if they were to win the county championship. So it could make for a very strange time. As I said, Killer would like some time to recover, but if Clonoulty win a game or two here, this relegation could be proper held up, and that's going to be very grim for the likes of your Upper Church or JK Bracken. So I know they do have the football as well, but if you're waiting for a relegation semi-final, like, it's just not where you want to be. Like, so it's going to be interesting to see, because Clonoulty, it wouldn't be a surprise if Clonoulty bet Mullinahone whatsoever, really. So, and then they're into a quarter final, and depending on who they draw, Clonoulty can beat anyone on their day. So, very strange position for Clonoulty to be. I'm sure they're just going to take it game by game, but if you go on a run there to a county semi-final and lose it, and maybe you're down a player or two, like, with how competitive the championship is, you could find yourself in a relegation final before you know it.
Yeah, just a point I want to bring up, and something wants a comment was put up there earlier on. I think it's maybe something that could be worth discussing maybe over the winter in terms of the regulations. Is that we all know your division gets you a preliminary quarter final, but I do wonder if you finish fourth in your group, should maybe you have to finish third in your group to use it. That maybe if you finish bottom, does it override your divisional? And that was like, you look at Killerwan, Upper Church, and Brackens, they potentially could be waiting 2 months before those relegation matches are ever played if Clonoulty go on and win the county. And like, at this stage, I'd say it's unlikely, but if they just get on and run, if they squeak by Mullinahone and then a week later win a quarter final, suddenly they have a bit of momentum like Killerwan last year. So look, I'm not sure what side of the fence I come down in that debate, but I would be an interesting one maybe for the CCC maybe to deliberate on over the winter, just in terms of keeping the whole championship streamlined. Because I'm sure even for Clonoulty, like as Paul said, going into training over the next, are they thinking winning county, or are they thinking avoiding not being into the relegation semis?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one as well, because like, you look at the Munster Football Championship for 100 odd years, Kerry more or less walking into an All-Ireland semi-final, and obviously the backdoor minimum in recent times. Look at the Leinster Hurling Championship. If Kilkenny had to come out of Munster over all those years. Would they have as many All-Irelands, Gary? I'm not sure they would. And like every year now, Clonolty more or less know that they have a preliminary quarter-final. So I think it's a very good idea what Shane has suggested there, that you have to finish fourth for that you have to finish above fourth for that preliminary quarter-final to kick in, Gary.
No, 100%. I actually 100% agree with that. And if that wouldn't be ratified over the winter, I think it's absolutely brainless. Like, because, like, we're saying the county final is on October 15th. So October 15th, and then you're probably playing a relegation semi-final October 22nd, where we're 30th of August now. What's that? That's 7 weeks, 8 weeks. Like, it is ridiculous in that sense. I think that's a great idea. And I think it should be brought in straight away, because look, we want to make, like, the division championship this year, especially in the north and even the mid, they're unbelievable. But I don't think you can give them that much precedence that, right, regardless, you can lose all 3 games in your county, but you're still going to have this trump card. So no, I think that's a brilliant idea, and it should just automatically be brought in for next year.
Shane, you might just have you could have a big life in administration just yet.
I know it'd be an interesting one, because like I don't think winning a division so be an all-encompassing pass into the county championship knockout stages. I think there should be maybe, like, if you're in a relegation dogfight, that negates your divisional win.
There's your column now for next week as well, Shane. In all fairness, were you impressed with Lockmore against Drum? They had it, against Upperchurch. They had it handy enough.
Yeah, they did. They sort of had it sewn up at half time. It was I know Paul was commentating on this one. It's a very odd game. Like, it never sort of spurred to life at all. I thought maybe we'd see a small bit more out of Upperchurch, because they were in peril, and at the end they've ended up finishing bottom of the group. Like, so, but look, Lockmore ticking along nicely. I suppose from their point of view, no goals conceded. I know Paul will probably tell you more. I haven't seen the match yet. I don't know whether they gave up many chances, but from that point of view, very, very good. And I know he was mentioned earlier, look, Ed Connolly, back from the cruciate last year, like, he was flying it for the Tip 20s last year when he went down with the cruciate, so he's back. Kieran Connolly got game time in the second half, so they're just ticking over nicely now at the moment, like, into the quarters, and big football game against Ballina next weekend. And like, if they're typically Lockmore, like, they just know how to navigate their way through these week-on-week matches at this stage.
Paul, will you give us the lowdown of that game?
Yeah, the game was 8 points in it at halftime. Lockmore were in the lead, and the kind of talk was, right, Upperchurch need to come out in the second half now and really make something happen here in the first 10 minutes. And then after 60 seconds of the second half, Liam McGrath had the ball in the back of the net. It was an 11-point game, and it just filtered out. Upperchurch got a few points towards the end, but it just filtered out as a spectacle. Like, it was kind of more so you're looking at Twitter while trying to commentate to see what's going on in the Temple match during that time. But yeah, Lockmore looking good. Like, it was just the way Upperchurch set up. It wasn't for me. I'm sure they had the reasons for it. Very kind of had a man back. Brian McGrath was free for Lockmore Castellini, and he just swept up everything. Every ball that was going down, Brian McGrath was in behind the break. And those Lockmore lads have so much talent in the wrists that if you give them space to get the head up for half a second, they'll pick someone out. And if it's Brian McGrath passing it to Noah McGrath, you're at a losing battle. Like, so I was talking to Mick Ryan. He was on co-commentary, former Tipperary manager. He was on co-commentary for our first game, and he was saying, "Oh, Upperchurch now, I can guarantee they'll bring lots of energy to this game." And I think just the way they set up, it kind of didn't allow them, because every puck out they were going was kind of short, and they're playing it through the lines, and it was allowing Lockmore to get Brian McGrath to sit back and all this. So I think Upperchurch did kind of shoot themselves in the foot, in my opinion. Anyway, as I said, I'm sure their management know more about it than I do, but for Lockmore, looked very comfortable. Didn't really have to get out of third or fourth gear. He asked if Upperchurch had any goal chances. They had one or two half chances. Darren Mackay made a good hook at one stage on Paul Shannon. I think Paul Shannon might have been half hooked or blocked from a tight angle in the second half as well. But Lockmore are looking really good. They somehow always are able to bring along one or two young lads every year. There's O'Connell's and McCormick's there that are young enough coming into the team, and they're a well-oiled machine, and they go marching on 3 wins from 3. And I saw them in the mid-championship I've mentioned before against Drum and Inch, and they really impressed me that day. So they're marching on into the quarterfinal, and Kieran Connolly back as well. Only got kind of 10-15 minutes, didn't do much of note when he was on the field, but just for a player like him, it's just about getting minutes into the body, getting his confidence back out on the field. We all know what he's capable of doing, but it's just making sure his body can hold up, because he'd be a huge addition for them if he can get back to any sort of level he was at with them in 2020.
Yeah, in Group 4 then, Kildangan and Thurles are through on 4 points each. Clonody finished bottom after defeat to Kildangan on 1 point, and Borrisoleigh finished with 3 points. I don't think there's too many groups where teams finish with 3 points and they're out, but I don't think Borrisoleigh can have too many complaints, Gary, because I've seen all the games this year. Wasn't too impressed against Clonody the first day out. Got a couple of late scores to get a draw. Just a Jekyll and Hyde performance against Kildangan and got that late winning goal. But this game against Thurles, after Dan McCormick got that early goal, Borrisoleigh were very flat, and Thurles were more than full value for a very comprehensive 220 to 111 win.
Yeah, I think 2023 Borrisoleigh, they just want to write it off. Like, considering that they fell apart against Kildangan inside Dolland in our semi-final, they were 2 points up with a spare man. They completely capitulated there. I thought the game against Clonody, they were very poor. I think less said the better about the performance against Thurles, and then obviously that second half, and only for Brendan getting that goal, I think it's a year to forget for Borrisoleigh. Again, 2 very poor performances inside the stadium. Is it a stadium? I don't know. Again, we keep talking about nearly every week. You need to bring a different level of hurling when you go into the stadium. Thurles, just like Barcelona when they go in there, and Borrisoleigh made them look like that on Sunday. I'm just very disappointed on paper. Borrisoleigh are a top 4 team, but they haven't played even like a top 8 team this year. Then on Kildangan and Clonody, I think that was a perfect game for Kildangan to come back after, I suppose, the disappointment of the late Brendan goal. Tight affair against Clonody, tight field. They really had to dig in deep, and look, again, they're creeping along nicely. They're getting back to knockout stages again. But no, I think it's just a complete year to forget for Borrisoleigh, Shane.
Yeah, what did you make of it, Shane? Because I look at the Borrisoleigh team, and I think some of the lads who were the stars on the run to the All-Ireland a few years ago, probably that little bit older as well, and we're waiting for the next crew to come through and take over, the lads that are 22, 23, 24, and they haven't really made it their own team just yet. And no, I don't think anyone expected it to be that comprehensive, but also with a couple of lads going abroad and so on, Kieran Maher isn't there, Niall Kenny isn't there, James McCormick in the goal. Not that Jody Harkin did absolutely perfect in goals, no problem there, but just this team hasn't been taken over by the next generation just yet.
No, they're it's a sort of as like they exited like tamely enough last year. They probably showed a bit more this year, but it's still not enough. And I was just disappointed by their lack of spark and the lack of drive last Sunday. I just, as impressive as Thurles were, it didn't look like Borrisoleigh had any hunger for it. Okay, they were coming into the game, top of the table, but they had the hardest on paper, they had the toughest task, was the racing record against Sars is not good, and they've generally lost pretty heavily to them. I don't know whether they had that something to do with the back of their minds, that they were maybe wary of if Thurles maybe got a run on them, and just that start to the second half, I was at 4 points at half time, and I was listening to Paul's commentary driving back from Cloughjordan, and it went 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and no response. And just maybe I suppose what we saw in the first half against Kildangan was an outlier. Maybe the Clonody, the second half performance against Kildangan, maybe that's a true reflection of maybe where Borrisoleigh standing was this year.
Yeah, but Paul, what did you make of it? Who impressed you for Thurles?
Well, for Thurles, it's hard to know what to make of the performance from Thurles, and I'm sure as a Borrisoleigh man, Shane, probably frustrating year, because as you mentioned, the team on paper is very good, and the team on the field can be very good, because we saw it in that second half performance against Kildangan. But the year for Borrisoleigh can be summed up with just inconsistency. The game against Clonody was a strange game, kind of really bad weather, but a really kind of poor kind of game by both sides. But they kind of sparked at different times. James Devaney looked like he was coming back into finding a bit of form. He didn't have a great game against Thurles, couldn't get onto the ball enough. But yeah, just inconsistency is the word. And even throughout the game, 1 minute Dan McCormick is wing back, then he's wing forward, then Brendan is pushing up the field, and Jerry Kelly is switched. There's a lot of switching around, and I don't know if that's the management just trying to find something like and get something to work. But yeah, it was a very disappointing performance from Bursley. But I think I was told over the weekend that they have a very poor record against Thurles, that it might be in the county championship, it might be back to the 60s maybe when the last time they bet him. So things like that can kind of hang over teams as well. But yeah, disappointing overall for Bursley, given the fact that unbelievable win against Killadangan. You kind of thought they might have kicked on a bit, but I think it was the exact same margin of defeats against Thurles this year as it was last year. So that is disappointing. But yeah, Thurles did look good. As I said, it's hard to know what you can take from that game because the second half really did peter out. But we all know all the options Thurles have off the bench, and they were bringing on Jack Darby and David Corbett, and Shawnee Butler got 1-1 off the bench, and they're motoring well. But yeah, interesting to see now how they're going to get on against Nina.
Yeah, Gary, I'm looking at the team here for Thurles, and going back to that game against Killadangan when they kind of fell apart a little bit. There was no David Corbett, no Ronan Maher, who's obviously the linchpin of the entire team. What we're seeing now, they were brilliant against Bursley, totally dominated the game. Burrs were chasing shadows, but I still wonder, is there more in the team? You look at the forwards, Billy McCarthy, Conor Lanigan, Aidan McCormick, none of them scored from play. None of them scored from play as well. So you nearly feel like there's probably more in this team.
100%, and I've said it a couple of times here on the show, lads, themselves and Lockmore, again, I think they're just in second and third gear. I think we saw a third or fourth gear from Thurles at the weekend. I still reckon Lockmore are still just tipping along in second or third gear. You said it there, like Aidan McCormick Psycho hasn't really kicked on at all this year from play as of yet. Obviously, one of the best free takers in the county. Billy McCarthy, I'm waiting. Billy's going to have a big performance yet, I guarantee it. He's getting all that game time into the legs there again. He's tipping along nicely without setting the world on fire. Conor Lanigan, as you said, and now I know we'll probably touch on the Premier Media later, but Jack Lanigan for the second team at the weekend, he was unbelievable. I'm sure he'll have a say in the senior for seniors there on during the year. But again, they just have all the strength and depth. They were missing so many against Clounty. Very poor. I thought that was the worst performance in a long time. They still got over Clounty by 3 points. They just have so much strength and depth. And again, they're creeping slowly but surely back into top 1, top 2. And I would fear at the moment now, I would fear for Nina. If Jake isn't available for Nina, I just can't see Nina getting over Thurles at all. I know they have a great record against them, but Thurles, again, they're just getting that momentum going now again. And yeah, they're going to be right there at the end of the year yet again. That's it.
Yeah, has Paddy Maher pulled a master stroke by putting Dennis Maher at full back, Shane? Because he was very solid in this game. Now, maybe Burrs weren't that impressive. He'd be more tested against Nina, but what do you think?
I suppose he's going with the guys he trusts. I suppose maybe he's looking at, how would you say, getting your spine right, getting a strong 3, a strong 6. Like they've tried a few guys over the years at 3. Even when he was playing, they generally put him at 6 and Ronan at 3. Maybe he likes a big physical presence down there. He's Billy McCarthy at full forward. He has, I can't remember who was at 11. So like he's definitely going for a strong spine to the team anyway. Look, yeah, they're ticking along nicely. I don't know what to make of them quite yet, because they got through a very, very tough group. There's no doubt about it. And then look, the Killadangan game, they were missing Ronan, who is their spiritual leader. He's their best player. Look, I just think that I just can't wait for this match against Nina, because just as you say, maybe Bursley has a psychological hang up with Thurles. I'm not convinced that Thurles don't have a psychological hang up with Nina, and definitely Nina don't have one with Thurles. So the fact that it's not in the stadium, I think Bursley, I think it'll be brilliant. I'm actually delighted they haven't put the 2 games in Semple Stadium, those preliminary games, and bringing them to regional venues. Just I think it'll add more, big crowd in Bursley and a big crowd in Cashel. Like I just think it'll add more to them on the weekend after next.
Just on Thurles there, Shane, I did the second game against Tracy's. I don't know what the story is of Mikey Cal with the first team this year, but obviously if the second team go out, Mikey Cal was like an 18-year-old at the weekend. He was just bouncing around the place. He completely just ordered the whole thing from centre back. He was unbelievable. So I'd imagine if the second team go out, he's going to be there for Paddy to call on. He was just unbelievable at the weekend. So, and Tommy Maher and Jack Lanigan as well. So they've plenty in reserve as well.
And then I suppose in the Premier Intermediate, just the teams that have gone through as group winners.
Just on the other game, Killadangan, like they're
oh, sorry, yeah.
we'll not forget about that. But the other 25-17, very, very good. I suppose the thing for Kildangan now is the next day, like what Kildangan is going to show up like. But look, great to see, I suppose, for their party with Dan O'Mara, 3 points to play. Like, I think when Dan is purring, he just adds another element to their forward line. Alan Flynn, a wing back, going very, very well. So look, I think they're ticking along nicely, like top of the group. I still think of all the teams, of the teams that are left, I think Kildangan's ceiling is the highest, but it's what you're getting in terms of consistency. Again, if they play it, they're the best team in it. I think. But then now is, I suppose, the challenge. They've got to put through three big performances back to back. And look, they only won one county championship in 2020. They have. And like, for their point of view, like, they never got to go on in Munster and test themselves against the best that year because there was no provincial competition. So like, they have an awful lot to really go for over the next few weeks.
What would you make of them, Paul? Like, how far can Kildangan go?
Yeah, sure. We all know, like, Kildangan could go all the way. Like, last year they didn't play up to their best at all and were a puck of a ball away from winning the county title. So that kind of tells you how much talent they have. But the thing that always stands out to me with Kildangan is they always have a spread of scores. There's never really someone who scores 110 and 1-7 from play for Kildangan. It's always like, Dan O'Mara with 3 points, Alan Flynn will knock over a few, Ty Gallagher will get a few. You could go on, Sean Hayes, all these lads. So that was a huge weekend for Kildangan because they were going in and they could have finished first, second, third, or fourth in the group going in. So I'm sure they're under pressure during the week with training and all that, thinking like, if we don't get our act together, this could be over, and playing a tough Clonouty team. So to go out and win by 8 points and finish the group in first place, that's going to be like a huge springboard for them for the rest of the year.
For sure. And then the Premier Intermediate, then group winners, Cashel, Kincormac, Carrick Swan, Burgess and Shane's Laura. The runners-up, Thurles, Sarsfields, Clonakilty and Killinall, they'll be joined by the runner-up from Group 1. Preliminary quarterfinals, there's one game with the mid-champions, Gartnahoe Glengool, to be drawn against the group winner, although not from their own group. And the relegation semi-finals, Sean Tracy's Newport, Portrue, they'll be joined by either Moyne, Templetui, St Mary's or Ballina. And then I suppose just to look at the results from the weekend. So I'll throw out all the results and I'll let you take up the baton from there, Shane. So Group 1, Cashel beat Ballina 223-26. Moyne, Templetui and St Mary's was postponed, understandably enough, and we extend our sympathies to everyone down in that neck of the woods. Group 2, Carrick Swan 120, Aero Ganacarty 14, Thurles Sarsfield's second team 19 points, Sean Tracy's, 113, Burgess 312, Clonakilty 12, Silvermines 312, Newport 116, and finally in Group 4, Laura 123, Portroe 217, and Gartnahoe Glengool 19, a draw with Killinall, who scored 116. So Shane, what sticks out to you there? I'm sure you're going to avoid your own fixture like the plague, but anything there?
I suppose I won't say too much. I suppose a couple of things. I suppose Jason Ford doing what Jason Ford does, steps up, last gasp goal from a penalty to save Silvermine season and send Newport into the relegation for the third year in a row, which is tough for Newport again. But I suppose from the game, I saw the second half of Ballina and Cashel. I thought it was a very, very good game of hurling. Like I feel so sorry for Ballina. I think they can't finish any higher than third. I think they're very unlucky. I thought they played some excellent hurling in the championship. Even their first round loss to St Mary's, I thought they were pretty good that day. Unlucky to lose by 3. So, I think they'll feel like, God, this is what might have been. But look, Cashel again, very impressive. 223. I think they were still short. Devon Ryan pulled 5 subs off the bench. And the game was in the fire towards the end, really dug it out well. And I thought it was an interesting thing for me, 5 minutes to go, or less than Oddie Moore and Andy Maloney took off Ger Brown. And like, Ger had scored 1-3, he was going well. He picked up a bit of a leg injury, but he looked like he was going okay. And he was very, very disappointed to be taken off. I know he didn't over-argue it, but I know he was frustrated. And I said, Jesus, this is a big one here, because it was only a 1 or 2 point game. And they brought on Jack O'Connor, and of course Jack scores a point about a minute coming on. You think, okay, that's a ballsy call, but it was a ballsy call for a reason. And I think I've said it all along. I think of the intermediate teams, definitely Cashel had the deepest panel left in it. There's no doubt about it. So like they were that, and I suppose probably surprised that Anacarty faded out so badly, losing by 9 points, but I definitely think it shows that Swan are contenders in there as well. So apart from Laura, look, we won probably the dead rubber game. We were short a couple of guys, but it's great to stay on a winning momentum as well.
And Gary, anything out of the Premier Intermediate stick out to you?
My scientific calculations have it down to 4 teams. Laura, Burgess, Killinall and Cashel. I would look and say obviously Laura, Cashel and Killinall are probably the obvious, and not to put Paul on the spot here. I was just very impressed with Burgess, just again creeping along very nicely without standing out, doing anything magical. Stephen Murray missing, obviously. Look, Stephen probably by his own standards again this year, very quiet from play, but he's still so important for Burgess. I thought it was a right chance for Clonakilty to get a big scalp and make a statement for the championship. But again, Clonakilty were very poor. But Burgess, again, they were very impressive. I think Cashel are going to be the ones who really, they could probably shake this up. Again, they had the strongest strength of depth, but again, we all know the story there. They haven't been gelling whatever the story is, but I think they've got the proper momentum now since the 12 Apostle Gate below in Holy Cross. They've just kicked on again. So that was one of the games again against Ballina, but just from a mind's point of view as well, I was there. I'd say the phone nearly blew up when I was actually interviewing Danny Ryan and Tal when Jason got the goal, and I was very lucky to keep my composure, but that was a big win for us. Just in the minds, I have to say, I was brutally disappointed, obviously, 2 performances before Newport game. I don't think the rest of the lads stood up, but by God, the rest of the panel show up against Newport. Like, I think with 6 or 7 even more different scores, it wasn't Jason Ford show. He get all the highlights, but it was finally the lads show up. So look, it's very important, as every club knows, to stay away from that relegation. But no, the scientific calculations, it's Laura, Killinall, Cashel and Burgess.
And Paul, we don't want to put you too much on the spot about Burgess, but you might give us a bit of an insight into that, and then anything else that stands out from the Premier.
Yeah, I suppose for us it's 3 wins from 3. The game at the weekend, as Gary said, we were without Stephen Murray, and I suppose we all know ourselves here, we've been probably too reliant on Stephen in the last decade really for getting us scores. So to win a game by 9 points without Stephen Murray was big for us. So yeah, happy with where we're going, but it's all about 3 weeks time now for us. But as Gary was saying there, when we were walking into the dressing room, we were getting updates from the Newport Silvermines match, and just to hear the kind of drama at the end of that, like Jason Ford really standing up. So elsewhere, like as you mentioned, Cashel, I think Ollie Moran from Limerick has gone in with them this year, and just on the outside looking in, like he was with Burgess, I think probably in the mid 2000s when we won the intermediate, and he's real kind of experienced heading him. So he's going to be a really big push on for Cashel, and clearly has. And Killinall getting the late draw against Garton, who was big for them, pushing them into second place and avoiding a preliminary quarter-final. So Ballina was another one that came to mind. Like, they've been so unlucky in recent years. Like, I think in the last 2 years that they go out just on score difference. They've gone out in score difference for a lot of times. So to again be in this position where it's maybe a puck of a ball, if it went the other way, they would have been to the knockout stages. So I'm sure that's very frustrating for Ballina, but they could maybe focus on the football now, and they could go a long way depending on how they get on against Lockmore Castellani at the weekend in the football. So Premier Intermediate, really competitive grade, and there's no real predicting how it's going to go from here.
Yeah, the Premier Intermediate, the preliminary draw was made last night. So Gorton, who were playing the runner-up in Group 1, with that rematch, that Mine Temple 2 St. Mary's fixtures next Wednesday night. So the winner of that is, if St. Mary's or Mine, they have to go again the following Sunday. So like, that's tough. I suppose the one time you probably wanted the draw not to pair maybe the refixture team against Gorton, who you would have wanted it, but look, it's after working out like that. So it'll be, for whoever Mine and St. Mary's have to go again 5 days later, it'd be tough. So you probably think it's advantage Gorton, who in terms of being rested and focused for that game.
And Gary, what we really need here is Paul building up Laura and Shane building up Burgess for the Premier League.
Do you know what? Just cut the 2 lads off there, and we'll talk about for them, because they're like 2 lads inside the CIA. They're not giving anything away.
We'll move on then to the intermediate. So Drummond Inch, they're through as a group winner. as are Kappa White, Burrs Kane, and then either Borlahan, Douala or Moneygall. So runners up will be Knockavilla, Kickham's, Golden Kilfeacle, Skeena Inky, plus either Borlahan, Douala, Moneygall or Kilsheal and Kilcash. Obviously that Moneygall and Kilsheal and Kilcash game was postponed for obvious reasons as well. Shane, so I'll go through the intermediate fixtures or results, I should say, here, if I can just find them. Give me a moment and I'll have them. Okay, so it was Drummond Inch 218, Arvale Rovers 115, Knockavilla Kickham's 416, Carrick Davins 110. Group 2 was Golden Kilfeacle 115, Ballingarry 15, Kappa White 121, Killadangan 16. Group 3, Borland 315, Shannon Rovers 13. We said Kilsheal and Kilcash Moneygall was postponed. Burrs Kane 123, Ballybacon Grange 110, and Skeena Inky 120. Upper Church Drumban 29. Shane. So what would you like to focus on there?
I suppose that all the drama was in the second group. Like, you have last puck of the game, 15 points each. Golden Kilfeacle are going into relegation. Ballingarry are going into a quarter. Golden score last puck of the game. Not only do they escape off 4-5, they end up taking second place on the new score difference rule. Like, just, I'd say there was a bit of confusion initially afterwards to know which was right or which was wrong. Were Ballingarry true or Golden true, and ended up Golden were true. And I think they were tied on scores, on score difference between the three teams, and they progressed to having the highest aggregate score. So just shows you how the fine margins again are incredible. Like, and geez, look at Golden. I think they should be doing an awful lot better. Like, I don't know, they're just haven't purred at all yet. Kickham's, I suppose, coming to life at the right time. Hammer and Davins, who were going well up to then, so that was a bit of a surprise. Boherlahan continuing to do well. Bursa Kane continuing to do well. Kappa White again, taking over nicely. So, of course, then you have the refixture between Moneygall and Kilsheal next Tuesday night. So I still think out Boherlahan, Moneygall, Kilsheal, Bursa Kane and Kappa White, I think the winner will come for those five.
Yeah, your thoughts on the intermediates, Gary?
Yeah, he's got the 5 correct, but I think from the 5, realistically, I think it's really only 3. Kappa White are really taking along nicely. They're really building something there. I think, again, from an intermediate point of view, they're like 2. I think in the next year or 2, they'll be doing something county-wise. I'm really looking forward to Moneygall, Kilsheal, and I think that's going to be an absolute humdinger of a game. Like Moneygall, I know they've got the prelim quarter final in the back. It was both teams do, but like they really let that win slip against Boherlahan up in Templederry. Yeah, again, look, like even just going into the relegation there for a second, like you've Rovers against the Dangan. Like that is going to be an absolute classic. I know saying that
George Hannigan training lads, he's going to be hurling against.
I was just going to say that, like,
cracking training and puck on for the next fortnight.
Like that's it.
I'm running up and down the field for the whole night.
Yeah, absolutely flogging the second team there for the next couple of weeks. But like for me, the Rovers are top 5, top 6 team in the county. Again, keep saying it every week. They just got the worst draw in the history of group stage in Tipperary. I'm really looking forward to that game, Moneygall, Kilsheal. But just from a whole, I think it's going to be Moneygall, Kilsheal, or Boherlahan. Realistically, I think those 3 are at a different level to Kappa White and Bursa Kane. But Bursa Kane have bounced back brilliantly from the North final. Like I'd say they'll have nightmares with that North final for years to come, but they've bounced back brilliantly. So no, look, like the 2 other championships, intermediate championship has been a humdinger as well. So yeah, roll on the knockout games.
Okay, well,
I just think that the refixture next Tuesday night, very strange that Kilsheal have agreed to it. It's only 2 days after they're playing senior football on Sunday, so they don't get an awful lot of rest. So
and that's a big game as well, Shane, because obviously they expected to beat Drum. Like look, they should be Anacarty. Let's call it spade a spade from what we've seen from Anacarty, but like it's basically the same panel they're drawn from. So
yeah, like it's 2 days rest. Okay, even if they lose to Moneygall, they still have a match the following Sunday against Skeena Inky. Like, but geez, like it's a lot. It's a big record. I thought maybe if they played it Wednesday night, 72 hours is maybe grand. God, two days is not, unless they've done it by agreement. But very, very, it's tough on them now. In fairness.
Before quickly moving on to football, Paul, was Ratton else on intermediate before we move on?
No, the only thing kind of to mention there was Shannon Rovers. Like, it's just they've got probably the hardest draw in the group stage, definitely, and now they've probably got the hardest relegation draw as well. So it's been they just stayed up last year. I think they bet Ballynahinch was it in the relegation final last year, and I think that the hurling gods have looked down on them and said you're going to have to do it the hard way this year. So they're playing Killadangan, and the other one is it's Upper Church second team and Arvale Rovers, I think. So just a difficult time for Shannon Rovers, but it's a local derby and anything can happen in those games. But I'd agree with the lads in terms of kind of favourites for the intermediate. You're looking at Moneygall, Boherlahan, Kilsheelan there as well. Kappa White are going well as well, and Drummondinch's second team worth mentioning as well. Like they're topping a group and your second team, so it's going well for them. But I would kind of think Moneygall, from seeing them play a couple of times, the likes of Joe Forty and Sean Kennelly, like they're going to be hard lads to stop at intermediate level, and they have all the firepower there. But it's going to be really competitive into this intermediate championship, no doubt.
Yeah, and in the football in Group 1, I mean, I'm just looking at the Group 1 table, and Clonmel are top with 2 wins from 2 with plus 27 score difference. Aero Gannacarty and Drummondinch, they're on a point each, 2 points each, on a minus 25 score difference and on a 0 score difference. And then Kilsheelan and Kilcash -2 after 2 defeats from 2. But like Shane, this weekend, Clonmel against Drum, you can only see this going one way, really.
Yeah, somebody was telling me that after Drum beating Kilsheelan, that was their job done for the year. They thought they were safe. But this new score difference rule has brought it in. Because like if you get Kilsheelan win and Drum lost, you have 3 teams on going to score difference. And of course, Annacarty's hammering by commercials is discarded, so it's very tight then. So I think Annacarty, I'd say, were even surprised by maybe how things have worked out for them, and the fact that maybe Kilsheelan might have one eye in that match with Moneygall, I think, and the fact that Annacarty are out of the hurling, I think it opens the door maybe for Annacarty maybe to get the result they need to win, get through in second place.
Yeah, and then Aero Gannacarty against Kilsheelan Kilcash the other game. I'm not sure, Gary, have you any thoughts on this group?
Yeah, I do, because I did the round 2 games for this group 2 weeks ago, and it's actually going to come down to, I said, look, Kilsheelan should beat Annacarty, so 3 teams and 2 points. It's going to come down to what Drum can score against commercials, because obviously Drum scored 111 against Kilsheelan. Kilsheelan now need to score more than 111, I suppose, because it's going to come down to who scores the most in this group, if the gods plays as they are. So I know both Kilsheelan and Lockmore or Clonmel should win, but this is going to be one for the pen and papers for the weekend. So I'm really looking forward to, well, not really looking forward to getting the pen and papers out. I hope I'm not doing this at the weekend for Clubber, but no, it's really interesting with this new bloody rule coming in as well.
Yeah, I really like it, I have to say.
Yeah,
Group 2, Ardfinnan are against Moycarkey Burris and Ballina against Lockmore. So Ballina are top with 2 wins from 2. Lockmore and Moycarkey, they have a win each, and then Ardfinnan are bottom as well. Paul, I'm not sure how much you've seen from this group so far, but it's like, are we expecting Ballina to get 3 wins from 3, or are Lockmore going to show their teeth?
I think this is the test now for Ballina. We've all seen how good they've been doing in the intermediate. Now I know they had that, or since coming up from intermediate, I know they had that big win against Ardfinnan. But if they can go out and get a result against Lockmore Castellini, I think then the talk of, they actually could go all the way here in the senior, that could actually become truth, because we all know how good they are, but it's a level up when you're playing a Lockmore or a Clonmel Commercials in the Tip Championship. So this is a huge kind of acid test now for Ballina. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're getting on, because they have a really good group of footballers down there. So really interesting to see how that game goes now, in fairness.
Shane, would you be expecting Ballina to keep kicking on, or are we waiting for Lockmore to come?
I think this is I think it's a fascinating game. I think it's probably the game we've been waiting for in the championship, because we want to see, like, Ballina, it's their biggest test to date against, I suppose, a seasoned Lockmore team. Will Ballina give Lockmore the ultimate respect and maybe taper down maybe their attacking style, or will they go for it? Because, like, even if Ballina lose narrowly, they're probably still going to qualify anyway, but their score difference is so strong. So I fancy Ballina in this one. I think they'll really go for it. It's like their little Lockmore's offense to be really tested. It's like Ballina, 6-11 and 15 points. Like they're able to shoot. There's no doubt about it. So like if that happens, then the result of the other match between Ardfinnan and Mike Archie, like you think if Mike Archie win and Lockmore lose, Lockmore are out, like so, like Lockmore have to really go hard for it as well. So, and Mike Archie should be a little stronger than they were against Ballina. They were missing a few boys and they're out of the hurling, but they're safe from relegation. So I don't know. I fancy. I fancy Ballina and Mike Archie to get through. I don't know. I think Lockmore could be a big scalp gone this weekend.
And then Group 3, Arvale Rovers are against Upperchurch Stromban, Kerr against Killinall. So in terms of that table, Upperchurch have 2 wins from 2. Killinall and Kerr have a win each, and Arvale, they're on no points so far. And in Group 4, Ballyporeen are against Moyle Rovers this weekend. Brackens are against Rockwell Rovers. So Brackens are top, 2 wins from 2. Ballyporeen and Rockwell have a win each, and Moyle Rovers, they're on 0. Shane, out of these 2 groups, anything that's particularly tantalising?
I suppose the Killinall match is a straight shootout for second place. It'll be tight. I fancy Killinall there. The other thing, Ballyporeen, Moyle Rovers. Like, you think if Moyle Rovers fail to get a win, or even if it's only a small win, they could be heading for relegation. And and you think 3 teams are going down this year. Like, geez, that'd be incredible if Moyle Rovers are one of them. So, like, all the pressure is on them this weekend. It'd be fascinating to see if they can find a bit of form against Ballyporeen on Sunday.
Absolutely. Gary or Paul, any final thoughts on those 2 groups?
Just know from Arvale point of view, again, a year to forget between the hurling and football, but they were 5 points up against Kerr 2 weeks ago. They lost to Kerr in the end. Now Kerr have no Liam Casey, he's gone back to Oz. So again, I do expect Killinall to kick through there, and then Moyle Rovers, that was some kick in the backside to lose to Rockwell, but massive win for Rockwell, and obviously Ballyporeen are still missing Conor Sweeney. So no, there's loads on the line this weekend again. The football, they were very lucky the way things are after falling, and it's just back to Ballina and Lockmore. It is the game of the weekend by a country mile. I do expect Lockmore to beat Ballina, but I've been called being a bit biased towards North teams in hurling the football by a couple of people. I won't name them, but no, I do expect Lockmore to win again. When they need to win, I think they will win. But no, I think Moyle Rovers need a big win, and I expect Killinall to kick on then as well.
Should this nearly be called North Tippcast?
Probably.
Paul, just yourself, any final thoughts on that football before we let the 2 of you go?
Yeah, and on the football, like Moyle Rovers is mad, like, because I was looking back and I think it's well over a decade since Moyle Rovers weren't in the knockout stages of the football championship. So the fact that they could go down into a relegation where 3 out of the 4 teams get relegated is just you would have never have thought it. But I suppose the football championship was crying out for a bit of unpredictability at the start of the year, and we definitely have got that. And if Kilsheelan just had beaten Clonmel, it would have really opened things up. But Clonmel bouncing back and absolutely hammering Aerogan Carthy kind of has reminded everyone of what they can do. So, it's thankfully it's not going to be just the same kind of 4 teams, judging by the look of things, that are going to get to a semi-final. So a bit of variance in the football this year, which is always nice to see.
Okay, well, look, Gary, Paul, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll be chatting to you again soon. Enjoy all the stuff coming this weekend.
No worries, guys. Thanks very much.
Just before we finish up, I suppose we'll find the Camogie, like, with second round was last weekend. Burge O'Hara had a big win over Nina, and Thurles Sarsfields beat Silvermine. So after 2 rounds, you have 4 teams on 2 points each, and Nina struggling on 0. So, like, 4 out of 5, you can probably guess who the 4 teams going to the quarterfinals are, with Drum and Inch as well. And you go to the other group, I suppose Bursley, 2 wins from 2 1-point victories. So they're I know they're raising a few pound of that Belgian blue for the Camogie club. I tell you that they'll need it. They'll need all the few pound they can get if they're going to get to a county final. Who was behind that?
I don't know who was behind it.
It's very good.
I enjoyed it out of the way.
How did they get Mike? How sort of glue did they put Michael? It's hard to get the fag out of Mike's mouth. So it is like. So.
That was gas.
Didn't fall.
And you know what though? Like, I think clubs need to be creative like that.
Oh yeah.
Just always find that little angle. Because when I saw the advertisement was just like the image saying that there's
I don't want a cow, like, or
yeah, and like I'd be showing people up in Dublin just more for the crack, like, just to see how will they react to this. And then you put a video like that out. So I shared it on our game as well, and the amount of views that it's had is absolutely unreal. So you'd have to credit everyone in the club who had who had something to do with that. So it was,
yeah, you see the old strength to score in novelty acts and down through the years was so that. There'll be some, I'd say, for next year's score now, there'll be something done. They'll bring a live heifer into Holland na Féile and Cashel or something as part of their set, like, so.
Yeah. Like, to be honest, like the Tipperary Championship, it just feels like it's going at breakneck speed between both codes.
Yeah.
It's never been as good, has it? Like,
no, it's week to week, it's fantastic. Like, and even you go down to the junior grades, and like I shout out to Knockshigowna, like your last Friday night won the North Junior B, and like it's people say it's only junior B, for them it's a lifeline. Like, that's their only team. Like, they were intermediate about 15 years ago. They've fallen all the way down to junior B, and like their very existence is under threat because like you have guys, so many guys, 30, 40, even 50 years. Declan Costello, 50 years of age, playing in the final last Friday. And like for them, thrilled for them. I know they beat ourselves in the semi-final by a point, but I was delighted for them to see them winning that game. Like, it just gives them a shot in the arm to stay going. Because like we don't want to lose clubs. I know they're fighting tooth and nail to stay going. Like, I'm just delighted for them. Like you have Junior A North final next weekend, Ballynahinch against Rossgrade. It'd be great for Ballynahinch to maybe, after being relegated, like if they were able to bounce back straight away and win a North Junior A title, and to give them a great kick on maybe to win a county and get back up intermediate. But like we see where Rossgrade they're going well in senior now in Junior A, like, and so like it doesn't have to be about the big three grades. It's even the stories everywhere, which is fantastic. Like, so
yeah, and that thing with George Hannigan as well, having to train the team that he's going to be playing against. Geez, what a nightmare scenario for him. Does he nearly have
like you step you're training, you're playing a training match, and maybe the number 6 for Killadang and the second team centre back. George, will you tip in and play a bit of that old training match here? And he gives the centre back a bit of a clip, like, so.
Or the other way around, the centre back.
Fantastic, like, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, go back into the last decade, and at times Thurles were walking county titles, and you look at the likes of Waterford, and there's a championship going on there, but you know, it's Ballygunner, and there isn't a hope that anyone, you know, who knows, maybe there could be a shock.
And the same in Kilkenny too. Like, it's more competitive, but you still think when the knockout stages start that Ballyhale will roll their sleeves up, like, and so it's like, okay, maybe we don't have the top end All Ireland quality, maybe champions, but geez, from week to week, it's brilliant because you just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, that's it from the show this week. It's been a cracking one. Paul Carroll of Tip FM and Gary Toohey of Clubber TV joined us. Really enjoyed that show. Shane, we'll be chatting again next week.
That was you then.